We meet again, everyone. It is Unfound Live for October 28th, 2024. Hope all of you have been having a fantastic week so far on this Monday. Hope everybody has been fantastic since we all got together last Monday. Get the T in there, last Monday. I have a fantastic show for you tonight. As the title of this live show suggests, we got murder and real estate on the agenda tonight. I gotta talk about the Menendez Brothers. And I also saw a news story about Interpol that caught my attention that I want to talk about and pass along to all of you, give my impressions of it. Maybe you have seen it too, maybe not. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff that is on the agenda for tonight. Got quite a few unfound particular items to cover. And if we have time, maybe I'll get to some other items, news that are not unfound related, but I make the commitment to getting to those news stories that are in the title and then the unfound stuff. Anything outside of that is up in the air, just so you know. But I'm doing fantastic. I've been without a car since last Wednesday. And really, it's been no big deal. I have to admit, I don't even really realize it. Car's getting worked on. I'm supposed to get it back Wednesday afternoon. And I hope that I do because I have a trip planned on Thursday that I will get to in a moment. As I always state very, very, very early, and sometimes multiple times during the live show, please give this show a thumbs up. Do it right now. You know it's going to be a great show. You don't need to wait to the end. Just do it now and you won't forget. Please subscribe to this channel if you're not yet a subscriber to this channel. I know the channel's been around for a long time, but we are picking up new people decently often. And so if you're tuning in for the first time on the live show, hit the subscribe button down there on the bottom right-hand corner. If you'd like to support what we do here at Unfound, and I do have some items that I can talk about at least a little bit that are going on behind the scenes that certainly help us with all the support that many of you give Unfound. You can go to patreon.com/Unfound Podcast. You can see it across the bottom of the screen. And you know that I mention that at the end of every episode of the podcast. If you're watching on YouTube tonight, you can hit the join button and then you get some things that other people do not. And then also while you are watching tonight, whatever the color the button is, gray, green, I don't know. You can hit the super chat button and contribute that way. And I would really appreciate that as well. So let's see who is in here now that we're about 5 minutes into the show. And I'll kind of just fill you in on what's been going on in my life since last Monday. You might find some of it interesting, maybe not. Hello, everything. What's going on? Raymond, good to see you. Toad Kiss, how are you? What's going on? Karen, Amy, Kathy, Sarah, what's up, Sarah? Charlotte, good to see you, Charlotte. Good to see you. And Rockford, checking in tonight. Good to see you, Rockford. And yes, my Steelers are playing right now, and I was watching it. and I've DVR'd it. So probably after we are done here tonight, when we get to 11 p.m. Eastern, and I'm putting together what will end up being the podcast version of the show, I'll probably watch. Of course, the game will still probably be going on because it doesn't start till 8:15. So probably I'll get to see the last 15 minutes, but I DVR'd it just in case it's something really weird goes on during the game. But the Steelers are playing right now, and not for a second did I think about moving this show till tomorrow night. So just so you know. Joanne is saying hello from New Hampshire. What's going on, Joanne? You're very welcome, Raymond. And Charles, wow. I was like, Charles, where is Charlie tonight? He's usually right there at the top of the chat. He's stopping in to say hi, taking the boys to dinner before I head out. Yeah, Charlie has a trip ahead of him, a jet that he has to get on soon. And Rockford says, new spoilers from me on the game. All right, well, just so you know, Rockford, I do have my phone set up, so I will be able to keep track of the score at least. So, and you should know, if any of you have any questions that you've ever thought about asking me, something that's on your mind, something that you think I need to answer, something that you think, probing my mind, it might be interesting to you during this live show, is the time to do it. Does not have to be true crime related. So what has gone on since we all got together last Monday? Well, my air conditioning, as they say, I don't know, do they say this in Germany? Went on the fritz again. It gets perfectly cold in here. There's nothing wrong with the air conditioning part. It's that the fan never shuts off. So it'll get down to like the temperature that I set it at, and the air conditioning, the cool part of it will go on and off, but the fan just keeps blowing. It's like it's on, the fan is on when I have it to auto. And that's a little weird. And weirdly enough, it's a little, I know this is going to sound weird, so weird. It's a little stressful sitting there and you're knowing that the fan is supposed to be shutting off, but it's not. It just keeps running. So the guy finally came out today. And as you would expect, maybe we don't need an AEC expert to know this. Gonna put a new fan on the air conditioning. The air conditioning unit itself, the cooling part is fine, but there's some switch in the fan that is not allowing it to turn off. And of course, as you would suspect, you leave the fan running, and who knows what can happen. So you're probably wondering, well, then how are you shutting the fan off? Because there's no switch, necessarily a switch on the wall or anything, to shut the fan off. Then what are you doing, Ed? Well, I'll tell you. I've had to go to the breaker box and flip that switch off. That's the only way to turn the fan off. But weirdly enough, that and my oven are on the same circuit. So I turned that off and I can't use the oven. I guess that's not that big of a deal. But that's what I've had to do the last, maybe since when? Last Wednesday or Thursday. Because it's just weird. Like I said, the fan continues to run, and it's not the quietest fan in the world. It's just a little unnerving. So I've had to shut it off just to get things quiet in here. So I have to go to the breaker box, which is over by the refrigerator, shut it off that way. And then when I'm ready to start the cooling again, I'll hit the button over here and then turn the fan back on. So that's been a little weird. I'm guessing they'll be able to get a new fan for it pretty quickly, but it is getting cold in here. The air conditioning works, but the fan is continuing to run. So air conditioning can be frustrating. It can be everything. And I have to believe that I really don't know how old or young or whatever some of the things in this condo are. If you aren't aware, Since I've moved in here, I've gotten a new refrigerator. I've gotten a new dishwasher. And now we're going to get a new fan for the air conditioning. And so some things have certainly gone bad while I'm in here. And also with the air conditioning, every year and a half, the drainage all gets clogged up and it has to be cleaned. So there you go. But I guess that's what happened when things get used or when things don't get used, depending on how you look at it. And of course, I get all this stuff done for free because I rent. And so the owner of the condo pays for all of these things. And I just have to keep tabs on them and let them know when these kind of things are going on. Oh, the other thing I got new was a new water heater, although there was nothing wrong with that. But the building wanted it replaced because there was some code. They made a decision that all hot water heaters in the building have to be newer than a certain date. And so mine was older than that certain date. And so they replaced that. It must have been back in May or something. So in the last 5.5 years, I've quite a few things replaced in here. So moving on, it was my mother's birthday. I think all of you know that my mother died back in November of 2018. But Friday, what's today, the 28th? Friday, when the episode came out, would have been her 84th birthday. Her birthday was October 25th, 1940. And what's funny about that is that that's the exact same date that Bobby Knight, former basketball coach at Indiana University and Texas Tech, Bobby Knight, both famous and infamous, he and my mother were born on the same date, same year, same date, October 25th, 1940. Is that crazy or what? And he just died here recently, I think within the past year. And I didn't even realize until he died, but I guess he had gotten dementia or something. So that's very sad. But my mom's birthday was just a few days ago. And in memorial to that, I tracked down Silence of the Lambs and I took a picture of the scene that she's in and as an extra. And I posted it on my Facebook page. Maybe some of you saw that. And that still cracks me up. And as I posted there, in that picture, I think she's 49 years old, which means she's 5 years younger than I am now. It's so weird. It's so weird looking at that picture. And I can remember going to the theater and seeing that movie and seeing her on the screen and just being like, well, that's the craziest thing ever. But she's in that movie. And because that scene, that some of it was filmed very close to where I grew up in Leechburg, Pennsylvania. It was filmed in a place called Rural Valley, Rural, Rural Valley. And my mom's in that movie. How about that? Academy Award winner. So neat. Moving on, somebody during the week wanted me to comment on this. I probably would have commented on this anyway. But the former lead singer of Iron Maiden died. His name is Paul Di'Anno, D-I''A''N'. That wasn't his real last name. That was his stage name. But Paul Di'Anno was the lead singer of Iron Maiden before Bruce Dickinson became the singer. Bruce Dickinson became the lead singer in 1982 in time for the Number of the Beast album. But Paul Di'Anno was the singer from about 77 until 82 or 76 to 82, somewhere in there. And if you ever listen to or read Bruce Dickinson's book about how he became Iron Maiden's lead singer, then you'll get the story about Paul Di'Anno and why the switch was and everything else. And the listener, knowing that I'm a huge Iron Maiden fan, asked me about that. What do I think about it? What did I think about him as a singer and everything? And I have to admit, I'm not a big fan of the Paul Di'Anno era. of Iron Maiden, those very, very early years. Just like I'm not really a big fan of the Blaze Bailey era from like 93 to 299 or 2000, somewhere in there. The fact is neither of those guys were the singer that Bruce Dickinson is. And in fact, I would say Bruce Dickinson is still getting it done. Bruce Dickinson is 66. He's a better singer at 66 than these guys were in their 20s and 30s. And so when Bruce Dickinson came in and took Paul Di'Anno's place, that really is what put Iron Maiden into the stratosphere of heavy metal. I don't think that they could have reached the heights that they did with Paul Di'Anno. I think he would have been fine for maybe more like a punk rock type of band or something like that. But with heavy metal, you just need a very dynamic singer. You need a Bruce Dickinson. You need a, you need a Jeff Tate. You need, somebody like that to be able to sing, all over the place. Rob Halford, of course. You need singers like that to be able to do that. And Paul Di'Anno was not that. And neither was Blaze Bailey. And Paul Di'Anno had some health issues going on for a long time. And it's very sad that he died. But the fact is that Iron Maiden became a better band after Paul Di'Anno left. Now, I have a friend of mine. His name is Dana, the guy who has gone to me with many concerts. We've gone to see Iron Maiden and many other bands together. And he is still of the impression he would like to have seen what Iron Maiden could have done had Paul Di'Anno remained in the band. I just could not be more opposite of that opinion as possible. So I'm very sad that Paul Di'Anno died. It seems like, he and Bruce Dickinson, I don't know if they ever disliked each other because of what happened or anything, but back in like August, they did a little interview together, which was very nice. But, as far as my music taste, Bruce Dickinson being the lead singer of Iron Maiden is the only lead singer that really, when they've been good, is the only guy that's been there when they've been good, in my opinion. Although I have to say, a couple of the Bruce Dickinson albums aren't that great either. But overall, as a band, Bruce Dickinson, much better. Some other things that are going on with me, I'm going to, as long as I get my car back on Wednesday, that is, I'm headed to Orlando on Thursday. My sister is already over there with her husband, Jim. They drove down from Ohio a couple days ago. And they have a timeshare over there. And I'm going to be driving over there on Thursday and probably hanging out until probably Sunday morning. I will be back here Sunday evening for the think tank. Not sure what is on the agenda over there. But because of this, of course, I'm rushing to get this Friday's episode done. The interview's already done. I've already written it. I'm going to record it tomorrow. And I will tell you what this Friday's disappearance is going to be, of course, before we are done tonight. So I'm going to be over there in Orlando. Of course, I was just over there at the end of August where I played some really horrible disc golf over there. But we'll see what goes on. Probably I'm predicting we'll have some good food to eat. I'm predicting that probably might go, I don't know if we're going to go to any of the parks or anything. That's really up to my sister, not up to me. Maybe go play some miniature golf. And we'll just see what goes on. My sister, Diane, sets the agenda. And so being that all of you see Charles in the chat here every Monday night, that is my nephew. That is my sister, Diane's son. He is going to be over there, I think. And so I'm going to see him for the first time in a little while. And we should all be having a good time over there. And then I think my sister's going to be there for a couple weeks, but then she's going to come over here and hang out. She's going to stay at my brother Brian's. And so I'll see her again when she comes over here. So I'm going to leave like Thursday morning. It's going to be a little bit of a rough drive, given traffic and everything. Maybe I get over there at noon, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'll probably stay through till Sunday morning. We'll see what happens. But I intend on getting the important Unfound work done before then. Although I'm not sure what I'm going to do about the Patreon blog. I'll figure that out when the time comes. But this is all predicated on me getting my car back on Wednesday, which they said it will be done. We'll just have to see. So whatever's everybody, I see people tuning in here. Hazel from New Zealand. Hello, Hazel. Kathy says everything, yeah, especially when they break down. I had to replace both my AC condensers in 2018, then already had a big repair one in 2023. Yeah, and then I'm guessing you own your own house, so you have to pay for it out of your own pocket, Kathy. Hello, D. What's going on with you? Good to see you, Hazel from New Zealand. Everything says can be very expensive when you own and have to replace air conditioning condensers. Yeah, that's why I rent. Marty, I'm going to see them this Saturday. Marty, well, you know that Rockford just saw Iron Maiden a couple weeks ago, so maybe you and he can compare notes. Iron Maiden not coming to my area of the country this tour. Unfortunately, I'm a little miffed. You have to let me know how good it was, Marty. Everybody's saying hi to Marty. Marty's very a popular guy here in the chat. Hello, Leanne. What's going on with you? Good to see you. Thanks for making time tonight. Everything says I hope you get your car back. Yeah, me too. Just so I go into Orlando. As I've proven, I can live without my car for the most part. Like I've told you, I'm a little bit of a homebody, and I went and bought food and everything, so I haven't had to order anything. But if my sister's going to be over there in Orlando, we have such a good time every time I've gone over there. Now, it's been a while. It's been a few years since she's come down here to her condo. So we always have a good time. It's always a very relaxed time, and it's good to see everybody. So, yeah, I definitely want to go over there. So no setbacks. And by the way, regarding my car, hood's getting fixed. The front bumper is getting repainted, new windshield wiper arm. There were quite a few things that the guy, saw when I brought it over there last Wednesday and dropped it off. Rockford says, up the irons, as the British fans say to one another. With Deanna, they might have been a slightly better version of Y&T or post-Dio Rainbow, like the Joe Lynn Turner era, but that's the ceiling. I have to tell you, Rockford, surely Joey Lynn Turner is a better singer than Paul Di'Anno. And you should know, Rockford, I am kind of a bit of a Y&T fan. I'm a huge Dave Manichetti fan. So it's interesting you use those. Of course, we can't forget who is the other Graham Bonnet, singer of Rainbow as well, Since You've Begun. Surely Graham Bonnet and Joey Lynn Turner are better singers than Paul Di'Anno, my opinion. In fact, Graham Bonnet is a fantastic singer. I don't know what he's doing these days, but he's a fantastic singer. Marty says, fingers crossed. Yeah. You and Marty and Rockford have to get together on their Iron Maiden experiences. And then one more thing before I get into the true crime section for the rest of the show. My trivia team, big win last Wednesday night. Big win, won by 30 points. And so for the first time ever, we are first in the standings. Even though we've won a lot, we've taken a lot of zeros. But this is the first time 2 weeks into the new season, we are number one. We're number one. And we, like I said, we won by 30 points. We only missed one question all night. So we had a good night last Wednesday. All right. So that's all. That's kind of what's gone on with me over the past week. I continue to do my singing practice, making some strides there. I've gotten back into playing the guitar a little bit, maybe like 20 minutes to a half hour a day, although I didn't have time to do that today. Been hitting the gym, feeling good about that. So certainly since I came back from seeing my dad in August, my schedule and how I'm choosing to spend my time has definitely been altered some, and I think it's very much for the better. Hazel says Metallica have just released tour in New Zealand this year. That's my little nugget in regards to heavy metal. Okay, thank you, Hazel. Never seen Metallica. Really not on my list of bands to see, to be honest, although I think they are coming to the Tampa area sometime soon, within like the next 6 months. I suppose I could go. Rockford, strong set list, Marty. You'll get about 12 to... Okay, so I joked to Ed that I thought it was Adrian Smith's grandson. That is funny. I've seen them in concert so many times. How many times have you seen Iron Maiden, Marty? Everybody wants to know. I've seen them 3. I've seen them 3 times. Twice down in Sunrise, Florida, and then once here in Tampa. All right. Moving on. Let's just go through first my upcoming appearances, in which, what is it? It's kind of weird that one of them you're all going to be able to see, and then one you're eventually going to be able to see, and then probably one you're not going to be able to see at all. But I'm going to go through them anyway. Of course, the one that is coming up here within a few days is me appearing on Dr. Telesco's show. That's Thursday evening, 7 p.m. Eastern. Yes, I am going to do that show while I am over in Orlando. I've already told my sister about it. I'm sure I'll be able to find somewhere over there that I'll be able to set up and have at least a little bit of privacy for an hour. And really looking forward to that. The agenda for this show is what we call Anatomy of a Disappearance. And we do this once a semester, where I put forth a hypothetical disappearance scenario, usually involving myself, and that's the way it will be on Thursday. And I will set up a situation in which I go missing, and then how most likely the disappearance investigation will progress. I think the one time I did this was I was headed to see down to Nova Southeastern University, and I didn't show up there. I think one time was another setup was I was doing the show, but then I don't appear on time, and Dr. Telesco's wondering where I was and how that might go. One Thursday, being that it's Halloween, I think I don't know if the road trip disappearance was the last time, maybe the first time I did it, Hazel. On Thursday, the setup will be I go missing while trick-or-treating. We will have a scenario where I will be out with my brother and other people in his neighborhood over there, and it's a fantastic trick-or-treat area, by the way. And during this trick-or-treat excursion, somehow I get disconnected from the group and I go missing. That will be the setup for Thursday evening. And this will be especially good because I am going to be kind of dressed up, at least from the neck up. So if you want to see how I'm going to dress up, you'll have to tune in Thursday evening. Once again, 7 p.m. Eastern on the Fischler College of Education and the School of Criminal Justice YouTube channel. That will not be on Unfound's channel, not on the channel that you some of you are watching right now. That'll be on Dr. Telesco's channel, the Fischler channel, where all of the other shows have always been. It will be live. So I hope you will tune in and hope you'll have some questions. I know a lot of our students will be taking part. And like I said, we do this once a semester just to give everybody kind of a lay of the land when it comes to disappearances. And of course, I'm going to go through the circumstances of my own disappearance, but we're also going to look at what do we do on Unfound. We look at the missing person himself or herself. We really, 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 really get to know that person. So my own life, my choices, my lifestyle, my personality will also be analyzed by me in the process of this show on Thursday evening. And the reason I do that is, I don't want to get, I suppose I don't want to get too personal with it. This is just an example. And so I don't want to just pick out somebody and pick that person because, like I said, we really have to take a deep look at the person and what that person has done with his or her life. Disappearances are about people, not circumstances. And that can get a little personal. And so that's why I decided when we started doing this, you know what? I'm just going to make myself the missing person, and then I can craft anything that I want. So there you go. What is everybody saying? Yeah. Yeah, Marty's saying he has a tough. Yeah, go ahead. Keep bragging. Keep bragging, Marty. You've seen them 5 times. Wow. Okay. Cash, how are you? Good to see you tonight. Yeah, well, maybe somebody kidnapped me. Really, when we do these scenarios with me going missing, I really don't give a resolution to it. But what I do is give my opinion on probably what are the most likely theories. But I really don't give, well, here's what happened. Someone kidnapped them. Marty says, I'm excited to see the costume. Once again, it's just from the neck up. I'm not wearing something from head to toe because, of course, you can only see me from the neck up. Just beware. Thank you, Hazel. D, if you want to go into the discussion group, it's already been posted there in the featured section. If you want to do that way. Everybody's saying Marty did it. Taylor did it. That's funny. So we know you won't be drunk or high. That is true. Marty, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to catch it live, but I will definitely watch it after the fact. Well, Marty, you're so busy. You're such an important person. Okay, there you go. Okay, Ed, I'll post it. Yeah, you do that. Yeah, go, D, just go into the discussion group on Facebook. You'll see it. I've already posted it there, the link there. All right, so that's the upcoming one. That's the one this Thursday. Everybody can take part. Everybody can get in the chat. You can ask questions. You can comment. Say hi, Dr. Telesco, please. One of my favorite people. That's this Thursday, just a few days from now. The next appearance I'm going to make, and this is the one that none of you probably are going to get to see it because of the circumstances, but I'm going to be doing a Zoom presentation at Texas A&M University. I did this last semester, but it is not a true crime presentation. It is a journalism presentation. It's to a bunch of journalism students at Texas A&M, and it's my assistant, Eric, who has set this up. He knows the woman who runs this class. And that will be next Tuesday, coincidentally, election day. I don't know if she and I, when we picked that date out, even realized that's what it was. But it's on election day. That is irrelevant to what I'll be doing there. But that will be something for that class only. It'll be on Zoom. And so if the professor wants to make that public, that will be totally up to her. Totally out of my control. Since we know on Zoom, generally everything gets recorded when you do that. I'll probably ask her if I have a copy of it. And then if I have the opportunity to post it as a video on Unfound channel, if I do that, I will do that. But that's all predicated on her permission. Okay, I'm just not going to somehow record it and then put it on the YouTube channel, on Facebook, wherever else, the website, without asking her for permission. She asked me to talk to her class, and given that I don't know who's going to appear on camera beside myself, there may be some issues there. So that'll be totally up to her. But that is next Tuesday. I forget what time, but it'll have to do with podcasting and reporting and ethics and what's going on in journalism and on the internet and all of that. Very similar to the talk I had last semester, but of course, because it's a school, all new students this semester. So kind of talking about a lot of the same stuff, but it's to a new group of students. And as you already know, I love speaking to college students. Of course, mostly it's been about disappearances, but I love that atmosphere and taking questions and things. I am all about that. Although I don't know if I could be a full-time professor or anything, because there are certain things you have to do and everything. I don't know if I could live it within a rigid atmosphere like that. But being provided the opportunity to get up in front of them, either in person like I've done places or on Zoom or whatever, I get excited about that. Unlike most people, I don't have any problems talking to people. I have no stage fright or getting up in front of people or talking or anything. That's just not part of my DNA. Of course, I come in well prepared. When you're well prepared, it's easy to not be afraid. So that's a large part of it. So I'm really looking forward to that. That'll be next Tuesday. Once again, I have no idea whether you will ever see it or not. Let's see what Kathy's talking about body shops. So who kidnapped Mr. Ed? Yeah, like I said, Cash, we're not going to do any resolution to my example this Thursday. We're just going to look at the possibilities. Cash says, how much is Patreon? There is a $2 level, a $5 level, and a $12 level. Cash, if you want to check it out, it's right there at the bottom of the screen. Dr. T is not Mr. T. Two totally different people. Look at Marty. Yeah, Kathy, I have something big going on the same night as Dr. T social. I will unfortunately be able to make it see live. Look at you, Marty. Just too big for us. Too big. MW says, you are a good talker. You'll do fine. Yeah. The good talking is unfortunately genetic. MW, thank you. Sarah says, and when's the best way? When is the best way to start a podcast? What is, Sarah, is that when, or what is the best way to start a podcast? Do you want to retype that? Sarah, I'm reading it. Love to answer your question. I just want to make sure I know what you are asking here. Sarah's asking, what is the best way to start a podcast? Everything that has to do with starting a podcast, Sarah, must be done before you ever turn the camera on or the microphone on or whatever else. And just for a second here, okay, unmuted. All right. There we go. Had a little electrical issue. The electrical cord for this MacBook. Weird. Yeah, it's not muted anymore, but it was muted. So, yeah, now we hear me. All right. So Sarah, what I would say is if you want to start your own podcast, no matter what the topic is, do all of your preparation beforehand. Do not try to wing it. Do not just turn the microphone on and say, you know what, I'll figure it out when I get here. Even for something like this live show, Sarah, in preparation for this live show, I do like 2 hours of prep work, putting the stories together, making sure I know what I'm going to say before I come to this microphone. It may seem like I'm doing this off the top of my head, but I'm not. And whatever, so that's what I would say. All the prep has to be done before you ever turn the microphone on. Also, never pick anything that is a fad. Whatever you would like to do a podcast on, make sure it's something that is passionate to you. Doesn't matter if it's cool or not, or trendy or not, or whatever else. You have to do something that is going to motivate you to record. Because podcasting, take it from me, can be a grind. And what keeps me going is I am passionate about disappearances. That's what keeps me going. And I can assure you, if I'd gotten into this just trying to be trendy or following some fad in podcasting or in pop culture, whatever, when I started in 2016, something that I really wasn't into, but I thought, hey, I'm going to get a lot of views and downloads and everything else. I can assure you, probably I would not still have been doing that type of podcast 8 years later. Just so you know. So that is just some things that come to mind right now. And I would also have to say that whatever kind of podcast you craft, it has to be you. It has to be a reflection of you. Do not come to the microphone being a character. Do not think that you have to be some sort of different person to do your podcast. I think that would be a mistake. Just be yourself. And that's what's going to be easiest. So that's some answers for you there, Sarah. I hope that helps. Taya D says, well, Ed, when you get rid of the MacBook, I'll take a donation. Okay. I don't know if you want this one. It's seen better days, D. Right. Hello, Carrie. Assistant Carrie, how are you? All right. And the final appearance that I think eventually you'll get to see, although I think this is going to be another live show, but it's going to be for this host's Patreon people. But I think eventually it will be public to everybody. I'm going to be on this podcast called the Silver Linings Podcast, hosted by a guy, Jason Blair. And he found out about me through Julia Cowley from The Consult. Of course, all of you know who she is now. And he contacted me a couple weeks ago. And I'm going to be appearing live on his show the day after Thanksgiving. So like a month from now on a Friday night. I think it starts at 8 p.m. Eastern on a Friday night. And of course, the topic is going to be disappearances, but I think we're going to be concentrating on the disappearances of indigenous peoples. So Native Americans here in the United States, First Nations people in Canada. My guess is we will also touch upon disappearances of minorities as well. Of course, that's a month from now, and he and his assistant have told me they will send me an agenda well before we're going to do the show so I can come in prepared. Of course, I think for the most part, in general, I can talk about disappearances off the top of my head. But if he's going to ask me any specific opinions on any specific disappearances, then certainly I would like to prepare that. and kind of know what I'm talking about. I don't want to get into a situation where I'm asked about a particular disappearance and say, I don't know anything about that one. So they'll send me an agenda beforehand. But like I said, this will just be something for his Patreon people to start. But the way, I've been listening to some of his podcasts over like the last 5 days. It's kind of, what's this all about? And it does seem to me that they'll come out, the Patreon people get it first, and then somewhere down the line, he makes it available like on Spotify, iTunes for everybody. So if you want to hear it live or watch it live, you will have to become a Patreon supporter for the Silver Linings podcast. If you want to wait, you can just do that too. I make no guarantees on when it will be available to the public. I have no idea. That's just a perception of mine. D says, I want to see that one regarding indigenous peoples. Yeah, D, it'll be coming out. Like I said, it'll just be for his Patreon people, and it will be live, but just for them. So those are right now my appearances that I'll be making, I guess, over the next month, and I'm excited about all of them. All right, moving on. Less time, avatar changing, more time concentrating. D, I guess I'm going to have to get myself on the calendar. D, yes. D, I'm always ready to appear again with you on some live show you want to do. All you have to do is let me give me a few days notice and tell me what we're going to be talking about. And if I say I'm going to be there, then I'll be there. You know me, D. Let's get to the Clint Walker poll. Now, the poll this week was a little bit different than usual. I didn't give you like a list, at least in the discussion group. I didn't give you like a list of yes and no, or this is who killed the missing person or anything like that. I kind of allowed people just to kind of write what they wanted to in the comments section. I wanted to try that. I really don't know if it really worked out or not, but I thought I'd give it a try. And the question there, let me check it just for a minute. I want to get it exactly word for word. Hold on just 1 second. It was, in your own words, in the comment section below, give your best explanation regarding the jacket that Clint Walker seemed to be wearing the day he disappeared, that somehow ended up back at his place. And here are some of the comments. Could it be that he had two of the same jacket, of a similar looking jacket? Also, listen to both parts of the podcast. I'm still stumped. Somebody said, I think it made it home from the hike, packed a couple items and headed back out. So that was somebody else. So somebody believes that Clint did go back home, might not have taken the bus. Another comment was he liked the one jacket so much that he bought another one very similar to the first one. So once again, it seems like he had more than one jacket theory seems to me to be the most popular one in the discussion group. Another comment was somebody is open to the idea that the video was mistimestamped or something. I think the video was timestamped incorrectly or mistaken to be November 11th when it was really the 10th, and he found another way home or was missed on camera. Another comment was, I'm conflicted. From what his daughter says, she's sure it was the favorite flannel jacket. I believe her and hope she gets answers one day. So really no answer with that. But it seems he had more than one jacket looked the same is a popular answer. And in the think tank, being the Cash was just asking about Patreon, patreon.com/unfound podcast. In the think tank yesterday evening, that would not that it was not a complete consensus. I would not say that, but it seems the most popular idea, so over 50%, is that Clint did have two jackets that seemingly were the same or looked the same, seemed to be the same, something like that. And I know what she said about the rip, but This is one of those things that you should know, Tabitha says she is going to send me this DVD, and so I can check this out for myself. I'd have to, of course, have a picture of the original jacket as well to make a judgment for myself. Because she can't get this DVD to work. She said she's more than happy to send me. I get nervous when people send me original materials. It sounds like she's going to do that anyway. Unless the file or the disc or something is totally, totally corrupted, I have faith that I'll get it to work one way or the other. And if I do, I will try to make it available to everybody, probably posting it on the website, theunfoundpodcast.com. So at least get to see that side of it, that side of the disappearance. And if she can get a picture of the actual jacket itself, then we'll all be able to compare one to the other. It just sounds to me, my experience, I would never say that Tabitha is lying. Absolutely not. If she believes that it's the same jacket, fine by me. I, though, being as I think all of you have learned, in a lot of these situations, it's trust but verify. It pays to be skeptical, cynical, not because the person is lying, but because people make mistakes. People see what they want to see. They don't have maybe the experience that some of us do at looking at endless video or, connected to disappearances. There's a lot of different things going on. It's just one of those things we'd like to see for ourselves. Now, in the end, it very well may be that people change their minds. Oh my gosh, look at that video. Oh my gosh, look at the picture she's provided. It's like, oh my gosh, that is the same jacket. Then it's going to get really complicated really fast. But for now, it seems that a majority of the listeners between the discussion group and the think tank are thinking, I'm thinking he just had more than one of the same jacket. And something happened when he went hiking that day, and he just hasn't been found for some reason, just like Jason Landry hasn't been found. Something along those lines. Yeah, Raymond, you got to, Raymond, if you're watching, you got to hit the live button. It sounds like you're a little behind. If you're watching like on YouTube, if you go down here and hit the live button, it seems like you're about 2-3 minutes behind the discussion. That'll catch you up. Of course, he's not going to hear this for 2 or 3 minutes from now. Rockford says, I want to know if he consistently carried the same items in the same backpack, which could explain similar wears on 2 jackets. But first things first, super curious to hear your findings on video. When I get it and I get it to work, all of you will be the first to know. Well, Tabitha will be first to know, and then all of you will know. Raymond asks, what made you start your podcast? I was wondering if something may have happened to someone in your life or something that made you passionate about Unfound. No missing people in my family, Raymond. It's just kind of the culmination of a lot of things that came together between me having a natural interest as a child, me kind of always being interested in mysteries, love mysteries, and trying to figure them out. I love puzzles. As a kid, my family had a subscription to the magazine Games. Remember that magazine? And that was fascinating to me. And then I got some speaking experience, some writing experience, and then technology of podcasting and the internet and everything came along. And so here we are. That's how it all happened. I have no missing people in my family. So I came to it from a totally different angle. I know some hosts have had disappearances. I understand that the vanished host, I think she had an aunt or uncle or somebody who went missing who might still be missing. And I think that might have motivated her, Marissa, to get involved in making her podcast. For me, it just came from my personal interest. So there you go. So that's the disappearance of Clint Walker. It's just, it's one of those disappearances where, we've covered a lot of disappearances in general, like Clint Walker. Guy, a little bit down on his luck, kind of living a very limited lifestyle, has some health issues going on and everything. And so, kind of walking off or going on a trip or something like that and go missing. We've covered some people like that. And you just think, might not necessarily have been suicide, but might have been doing some things he shouldn't have been doing, making some bad choices or whatever. And that's kind of in general what you'd think with Clint Walker's disappearance. And then the jacket throws a wrench into all of that. Like I said, I think as much as I think Tabitha did a fantastic interview, and I think I did a fantastic job questioning her, there are some things sometimes that we just need to see for ourselves. For sure. Marty talking back and forth with Cash. All right, moving on. I want to I'm gonna give a shout out to my assistant Eric. For a little bit here. And then I got some Steve Panky letters. I got two Steve Panky letters since last Monday, and then I'm going to get into the things that are in the title of the show tonight. I want you to know that Assistant Eric has been doing some fine work. And there's one thing that I could talk about in a little bit of depth. And the other one I'm just going to have to, recent events, just going to have to lead out of it. Some of you know, surely not all of you, but some of you know that behind the scenes, I've probably mentioned this on the live show at least once, but it's been a while. And this has been going on for a while. But behind the scenes for a while, and I knew about their disappearances even well before I started Unfound. It's kind of like Jody Hughes and Truth. I, of course, knew about her disappearance, over 15 years before I started Unfound. But for a while, in my mind, I've been thinking about the disappearances of Angela Westbury and Teresa Hickman. These are two young women who went missing from Jacksonville back in 1984. They allegedly got on a boat with two guys in a harbor over there in Jacksonville and were never seen again. And the boat eventually was allegedly sighted down in Grand Cayman Island, which is on the other side of Cuba, by the U.S. Coast Guard. They had gone missing. The father of Teresa Hickman had kind of seen the boat that he thought that they were getting on and saw the name of it, knew what kind of boat it was. And that helped the U.S. Coast Guard out in trying to figure out where this boat was. It was eventually discovered down in Grand Cayman. But for all these years since 1984, that has been about it as far as public information. And Cash, how old were they in 1984? Teresa was 20. Angela was 17. Both of their disappearances are listed on the Charlie Project, and they're both on NamUs. Not a lot of information out there about them at all. Even though when two young women go missing at the same time, you'd think it would get a lot of attention. Of course, we know about Peggy and Patty McDaniel. Their disappearances didn't get a lot of attention here in Florida either. And of course, Unfound changed that way back in 2017. And my idea has been to change this regarding Angela and Teresa's disappearances as well. How is it that two young women can get on a boat, go missing, and nobody seems to be doing anything about it? Especially when you know what the name of the boat is, you know what kind of boat it is, you know that there were two guys with them, you know that they didn't die in a storm or anything because the boat was sighted later. Well, what the heck is going on? It seems like you have all the ability, if anybody wants to put any time into this, to kind of flesh this out. And given that my assistant Eric has had more time than usual this fall, I had tasked him with trying to figure out what he could do. And I've taken extensive notes. I spoke to Teresa's parents some years ago. Her father's now deceased. I continue to keep in touch with Angela's sister, Denise. And so I have extensive notes, what they both told me, what they remember back from that time. And so I had a file. I gave it to Eric and said, here, see what you can do with it. And because of the work that Eric has done, I'm going to tell you, yesterday in talking to him was one of the biggest mind-blowing days in the history of Unfound. And Eric has been in contact with the Coast Guard. He's done a lot of things. And pretty sure, I don't want to jinx anything, but I'm pretty sure before the end of this year, Unfound is going to be able to do extensive, in-depth, never before heard coverage of their disappearances. 2 disappearances that right now just the some information out there, but there's never been a disappeared episode on them. There's never been a Dateline on them. There's never been a Discovery Channel episode on them. There's no podcast that ever done any coverage of them because, once again, there hasn't been a ton to talk about. Well, when Unfound does it, we're going to have a ton to talk about. And like I said, what Eric told me yesterday, like I said, I'm not ready to reveal it anyway yet, but what he's been able to find out and everything has been a mind blower regarding these disappearances. So I know you're such a tease, Ed. I felt I needed to do this because Eric, over the last maybe month and a half, working on his own, he's a volunteer. Doing this on his own is just because I've given this work to other people, and there's no else way to put it. They failed. I've given this job to at least 5 other people in the last 7 years, and they got nowhere with it. And here Eric comes along, and within like a month and a half, he's found the right people to talk to. He's gone about it the right way. And I'm so excited about this. I don't know if we're going to be able to find Angela and Teresa, but I think that we're going to be able to put a lot of names out there, a lot of things that were going on. And I think. So good job, Eric. He's also been, so there's that. So maybe some of you don't even know who Angela Westbury and Teresa Hickman are. You can go out there and start reading about them. You're not going to find much because they're just a very general story about what happened. And what's made this so confusing is that seemingly they got on this boat with these 2 guys. They go missing, but these guys are never identified. There's no missing persons cases with 2 guys who are also missing. And these have always been questions about what the heck was going on here. Well, I think that we are getting very close to knowing a lot of names and things like that, all thanks to Eric. Well, Eric's not, you'll just ask Eric. Eric's not going to tell you anything. So there's that. So there's that. Eric has also been working on something else, and this is what I can't say as much on, but there's something else going on in a totally different area where I'm pretty sure, once again, in the next couple of months, that we're going to get to the bottom of a lot of other things regarding something else. I just can't say as much as I can't get into names and stuff there. But regarding Angela Westbury and Teresa Hickman, it's been on, those disappearances have been on my mind for so long. And so for yesterday to have that conversation, crazy. It was crazy. So there you go. Let's move on to my buddy or non-buddy, Steve Panky. Let's see. Cash, you're saying a lot of stuff here, man. You have to realize something, Cash. I'm not, if you're good, I can't read everything that you said. I know you're just commenting on what I'm saying, but there you go. Are the guys still alive? I don't really want to get into that right at this second, Sarah. I'm not necessarily saying that's up in the air, but there are some suspicious things going on. All I can say. Marty says Eric does a phenomenal job. He does. Yeah. I'm not going to get into that right now, Sarah. Eventually we will. Eventually, like I said, I think we're going to be able to talk about anything and everything regarding their disappearances. I think. Fingers crossed. For this podcast, people can't see it. I have my fingers crossed on this. Fantastic. All right, so let's move on to Steve Panky. I've not gotten a couple letters from him for a while, but I did get a couple, and I can read some. This is once again a situation where he's saying things about the discovery materials, and since I haven't seen the discovery materials, I don't know if he's telling the truth or not. But I'm working on it. But he sent me this. Lot said in here once again. Salacious things that you can see. It was 3 pages. You can see I'm not gonna show them to the camera because you might be able to freeze frame it afterwards and maybe read some of the words or something. But this is, here's the deal regarding all this. Many of you believe that Steve Panky is a liar. And we certainly know that he has lied about some things. For example, going back to the interview that I did with him back in 2019, we now know that he totally made up that thing about his father-in-law and that talk that they had. That came out in the first trial. He admits to that now. Whether you want to buy into his explanation or not, totally up to you. But he says that was a lie. And there are a couple other things that he strayed from the truth on. But here's what I will tell you. If someday, I'm hoping it's going to be soon, maybe not. But that even though I testified for the prosecution, my interview with him was used by the prosecution. You know that I think he got screwed by the jury. He very well may have killed Janelle, but I certainly don't think that was proven. But what he has been writing to me and is saying in these discovery materials, if they are not lies, if I can't read it, I can't read this stuff. I can't make it public once again because they might be lies. But if it's the truth, and these were things that were not admitted or allowed or whatever else in either trial, that is certainly something. What I can tell you, because I've been asked this before. I've been asked this by Julie Cowley. I've been asked this by other hosts I think maybe even John Lorden at one point asked me this a couple years ago or something. Some of you have asked me this. Well, what is Steve's theory? If he claims he didn't kill Janelle, then what is his theory? And it's weird. You would think that he would automatically default to Norris Drake. And he and I have talked about Norris Drake and the possibility of maybe is he an alternate suspect. Once again, if Steve didn't do this. If Steve did this, then there is no alternate suspect. But I can tell you this, what comes up more than that in his letters is his theory that Janelle actually shot herself. And that is his theory. I know that that's offensive to many people, but I've been asked this more than once, many, many times by a whole wide range of different people. Well, Ed, if you're open to the idea that he might not have done this, well, have you ever asked him what he thinks happened? I would say that his explanation, the thing he keeps coming back to is that a suicide that was then covered up for whatever reason. Once again, in that way, he's talking about her murder or death, no different than any of us would be theorizing about any disappearance or murder out there. I know to the Janelle Matthews, I know to her family, her parents, I know that sucks. I know what he's saying sucks. I know. But if you're going to ask it, then I'm going to tell you. He may be, once again, he may be the murderer and this is all going down a rabbit hole and everything else. All I will tell you is this. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. If what he says is actually in these discovery materials, things that did not make it into either trial, then I think there are a lot of different possibilities for the murder or death of Janelle Matthews. Now, you already heard D.A. Rourke is not going to send me the discovery materials. And so there's that. I read that letter a couple weeks ago. He has his reasons. I think he's well within the law to do that. Carrie says, I still think he should just give permission to you, Discovery. I have a hard time believing anything he states, not only because of lies, but because he won't prove what he states. Well, the thing is, Carrie, he can't prove it if he doesn't have the discovery materials to send me himself. And the other problem I've had is I've tried to go through his first lawyer, Tony Vurst, regarding this, and he hasn't gotten back to me. And I already tried the DA angle. All right, Carrie. So I get what you're saying. But it is obvious. I mean, now in every letter he sends me, the discovery materials come up. Now, here's what I will tell you. I'm going to go on the record. This is all being recorded. So all of you can come back and check this out someday. I will tell you this. He's saying all these things about the discovery materials. If I get those discovery materials and none of this is in there, then he surely killed Janelle Matthews. All right. I'll just put that right out there right now. So anybody's doubting me or anything like that. If he's writing all these things about what's in the discovery materials, I get all of them and none of it's in there, or he's misconstrued it or whatever else, I will finally agree with many of you. You know what? Yeah, this is a rabbit hole. This is him just being crazy and provocative and everything else. And yes, he certainly did kill her. Okay. But if he is telling the truth about this stuff that's in there, we're going to have a long conversation. I don't know who I'm going to be talking to on this live show, my assistants, whoever else about this, but it's going to be a long conversation. I will tell you that. So let's go back up here. Q Steve Panky, you're going to have to look that one up, Cash. I am not getting into the depth of that. She didn't shoot herself and bury herself too. Why cover up a suicide? Makes no sense. Well, it's not, Carrie, you know me. I don't go, there's just too many disappearances that we featured where none of them make any sense. So I'm not going to go to that doesn't make sense angle. What I would say is that's not a very high statistical probability. All right. But I don't want to get into, because a lot of what? Crystal Morrison walking off and dying by herself in the woods makes no sense. Okay. How many disappearances have we had where the facts don't make any sense, except that they happened? So I don't want to get too caught up in the makes no sense stuff. But I will agree with you. That is a low statistical probability. It'll all come down to the discovery materials. And like I said, I'm already on the record. It's been recorded. If he's lying about these discovery materials, then I will jump right into it and I will tell him so. Steve, you are a liar. None of that's in these discovery materials. Goodbye. Okay? There you go. Carrie says he has copies. Well, not in his cell, Carrie. Trust me, we're going to work this out. Carrie, we're going to work this out. But let's not be simplistic about it. Okay? It's not like he has the discovery materials just sitting there in his cell waiting to send to somebody and he can just walk down to the copier and copy them. Let's not get crazy about this. He's a murderer. He's in jail. Very limited capabilities of what he could do from day to day. I'm not making his defense, but we know how those people live. Marty says Steve just doesn't know when to stop talking or to stop writing, maybe. All of this is for attention, trying to be relevant. Well, I guess we'll see, Carrie. I guess we'll see. I mean, he's the one who's painting himself into the corner with these discovery materials. He's the one who's doing that. And he is the one who is urging me to get them. He's not saying don't get them. He's saying, contact here, contact there. I want you to see them. Well, I'm trying to do that. I don't believe that theory. That's fine by me, Sarah. He keeps deflecting to send. I avoid accountability. I know. Raymond, how do you find information on something that happened so long ago, even before the internet? Well, Raymond, it's tough. Depends. It depends what kind of information you're looking for, Raymond. It depends. You'd have to be a little more specific. So these are the two letters. Once again, a lot of discovery talk. He tried to clarify with me why he keeps bringing up Bellevue, Colorado, and Bellevue, Idaho. Because I was a little unclear on that. And regarding your question regarding Bellevue, Colorado, Bellevue, south of the city of Evans. Evans is south of Greeley. Greeley, Evans, LaSalle, Bellevue. I think, but not totally sure. It's been 40 years, and I was rarely south of Greeley. According to media, this is Steve writing. According to media reports, Janelle's body was east of Bellevue in a remote rural area. He goes, I have never traveled there. And it's 100 miles or so from New Raymer, which he says is a shock to him. And then he also brings up 2003 in Bellevue, Idaho. So there are two Bellevues, which is weird. Different states. And Bellevue, Idaho has to do with a situation. Some of you may remember this, but he was a licensed Idaho apprentice mortician. And he got called to the Sarah Johnson, who allegedly killed her parents. Some of you maybe know about that murder. And she made national news, according to later appeals reports in the Twin Falls and a lot of these different places. I was alone in the house during crime scene processing, and there were allegations that Steve might have altered the scene. He goes, I assume you can get above information at newspapers.com. So he kept bringing up Bellevue, and I wasn't sure what he was talking about. And then he clarified that for me. I think that I could read that to all of you. So that's what's going on with Steve. Yeah. And like I said, he wrote 2 full pages about discovery materials. And of course, I'm saving these. I have them in a stack right off to my left here. And I really believe one of these days, I'm hopeful. I think a lot about it, that I'll be able to get to verify or unverify what he is saying. And like I said, I'm going to say this for like the 3rd or 4th time. If I get those discovery materials, whether it's this year, next year, or when I'm 77 years old, and it turns out that what he was saying don't match up what's in the discovery materials, then I will, of course, tell all of you about it and make sure that Steve knows that we all know that he, for sure, a liar, pants on fire. and that he surely killed Janelle. All right. So once again, you know me, I'll own up. I've made mistakes before. I've gotten disappearances wrong. I have no problem saying when I get things wrong. So, there's that. All right, let's go on to these. I'm going to first talk about the Menendez brothers. It seems that these guys may be getting out of jail early. There is a movement to change their charges from killing their parents from murder to manslaughter, which means they've already spent enough time in jail for a manslaughter charge, which means they could be getting out of jail, I guess, within weeks, within days, within weeks, within months, and will never serve out their entire time. In fact, I don't know if it was life without parole. I don't even remember. But the Menendez brothers could be getting out of jail soon. And I want all of you to know that I am not a fan of this at all. I had a pretty good back and forth. Of course, she's a friend of the show. I like her a lot. She invited me to her wedding, and I was there a couple years ago. You know, Kelly Bruce, the guest for the I consider her to be, as far as lay people go, the authority on the disappearance of Brian Schaefer. She was the guest from a few years ago when we covered Brian's disappearance. Kelly Bruce Koshanor. Always have a less time with her new last name. But she and I got into a back and forth regarding this, and I don't think she'd mind me saying that she seems to support the idea of the Menendez brothers getting out now. And I, of course, do not. And this is kind of rare because Kelly and I would say for the most part, usually agree on true crime kind of stuff. Now, why is it that I am taking this point of view? I think all of you deserve to know that. Here are the reasons. Now, the reason this is getting maybe reduced is because in the years since, it is, I guess, been shown that Mr. Menendez was some sort of abuser and that the abuse was not allowed into the second trial. The jury was not allowed to hear that. And there's a belief, had they heard it, maybe it wouldn't have been murder. Maybe it would have been manslaughter, on and on and on and on and on. Got big problems with this. First and foremost, this was premeditated. I don't know how you could say that something is premeditated would then be manslaughter instead of murder. I'm not in the legal business. I'm in the information business. I'm not a legal expert. But premeditation, these two sons meant to kill their parents and planned to do it. First of all. Second of all, when it comes to the abuse, these two guys were grown adults. They could have moved away. They could have gone to Hawaii. They could have gone to Canada. They could have come here to Florida, whatever else. They did not have to live near their parents, ever see their parents. If one of them or both of them were abused and had problems with their parents, they didn't ever have to engage with their parents ever again. You know why they did? Because they wanted their parents' money. Let's just get it out of the way. Their parents had a lot of money. These guys didn't, because they didn't really do anything with their lives. So there's that. They were grown adults. They didn't have to be around their parents anymore. They were not under any threats. This is not like a 10-year-old who could be controlled by their parents. I realize that abuse happens, but abuse cannot be met with murder, with killing somebody, unless it is some sort of immediate threat. There was no immediate threat. There was no immediate threat that the father or mother was going to do anything to either of them. In addition, These two grown men couldn't defend themselves. On top of that, they tried to make it look like somebody else did it. So it wasn't just premeditated. They actually went to lengths to try to make it look like somebody else did it. And then on top of everything else, it's obvious that they have no remorse over any of it. None. Cash says, I disagree. The effects of sexual abuse are not something you switch off. Yeah. But here's what I know, Cash. Most people who are sexually abused don't kill their parents. This was a choice. This was not, they were not forced to do this. Most people who are abused do not kill their abusers. It was a choice that they did this. It was not forced upon them. This was not self-defense. It was not either it was they or them. It was not either the brothers or their parents. This is kind of what I told Kelly. Kelly kind of brought up the same thing, Cash. And I said, yeah, but most abusers don't kill their abuser. Most abusees don't kill their abusers. And certainly, I think that's the way it should be. We cannot, in a law and order society where we are, a country of laws, not men and women, we just can't have people just killing people because they're abused. We can't do that. Because as I stated to her, this is what I wrote to her, it is a slippery slope. If we can give this is exactly what I wrote Kelly. And Kelly, I love Kelly. Kelly, if you're listening, she's probably watching the Steelers game because she's a huge Steelers fan too. But this is what I wrote to her. And this is the way I think about things when it comes to the law and all sorts of things about life. If we can give two grown men with means just a sentence of manslaughter for a planned killing, this will quickly become others killing their abusers and getting slapped on the wrist. This will then become lying about being abused to kill people and getting away with it totally. This is what will happen. Why? Because this is the way we are as humans. This is the way we craft our laws according to human nature, not how we would like things to be. If we were all angels, no laws would be needed. This is a very, very slippery slope. And surely I don't believe anybody should step onto that slippery slope. If it was self-defense, if there had been years of abuse, the sons went over there one evening and the father came in and kind of said, you know what? I'm going to abuse you two again. And the sons killed him. I get it. If there were plans, the I don't know what the duct tape and the whips were out and the duct tape was out and the handcuffs were out and all these other things were going to chain these two guys up and the parents were going to go to work on these two grown men, then I get it. That is not what happened. This is a bad, bad precedent. I happen to believe that the Menendez brothers are two horrible, horrible, horrible people, and not because they were abused. I think they're just horrible people. I think that they I'm not saying they weren't abused, but they killed their parents for the money. That's why they did it. It's just hard for me to understand why people don't see this. They killed their parents for their money. They were two ne'er-do-wells who didn't do anything with their lives, were waiting for their abusive parents to die to get their millions. The parents weren't dying fast enough, so they killed them. Kara says, you have a strong and plausible argument. Thanks. Carrie, I don't know. I semi-agree, but like Gypsy Rose, I feel they will be serving a life sentence with or without bars. Carrie, they deserve to be behind bars. They deserve to be behind bars. I believe that the Menendez brothers, just due to abuse they received, it's murder. It's premeditated murder. And then once again, when we get into abuse, how far do we want to take this? Of course, there's all types of abuse: sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, mental abuse. Are we going to start having different sentencings or, for things? Well, if you kill a guy because it was just mental abuse, it's only this. But if it's sexual abuse, then it's this. Is that what we're really going to do? Or are we just going to say, when you plan to murder somebody and you thought about it and you planned it and you try to get away with it, you know what? No matter what happened, you're going to jail for a very, very long time, and it's murder. Because the message then is, don't murder people, don't plan to murder people, and if you do murder people, don't think that you're going to get off easy because of it. Now, I don't know how much that's going to keep people from murdering people. I don't know. But murder's wrong. And if we have a just society, then murders deserve to be in jail, especially ones that plan it out. Once again, if they were 10 years old, if they were both 10 years old and their parents were coming in to abuse them again, and these kids had nowhere to run, and all the doors were locked, and, they were locked in the cellar or something like that, and the parents came down, and one of them happened to find a knife, and they stabbed their parents to death, that's self-defense. That's not what happened. The thing is, every case is idiosyncratic, and there's only one truth dependent on the truth believed. Cash, the facts are not in dispute. There's no disputing the facts here. It was premeditated murder. They planned it out. Nobody disputes that. That's the only thing that matters. Gary, why not? We use the same things as enhancers in sentences. Why not for lesser sentences? Not when it's premeditated murder. Once again, I think the big difference here is I see the Menendez brothers as different people than maybe some of you do. It seems to me most people don't think they're dangerous anymore. I think they are very dangerous. I think that if you really believed that they were still dangerous, you'd think, you know what, we got to keep them behind bars, no matter if they got abused or not. My contention would be they are still dangerous because I believe the reason for their crime was getting the money. How do I know that? Because they wanted to make it look like somebody else did it so they could start spending all the money. That's why. It's not like they murdered their parents and went back to living their lives. So there's no reason to let anybody dangerous out of jail. I guess what really confuses me is that we on the other hand, we're not for letting, it's, like child abusers, adults who have sex with kids. And what do a lot of people think? Well, we got to throw them in jail and throw away the key. And in fact, some people think they should be executed, right? Even though these adults didn't kill anybody. Now, certainly these kids have been scarred, certainly. But, we hear about castration and thrown down into the dungeon with the roughest other prisoners so they can be beat up and rape themselves and everything else. And these people didn't even kill anybody. The Menendez brothers killed 2 people, and we're going to let them out of jail. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm on the record. I know some of you don't agree. Totally fine. I think this is... I think what I also know, if I can say this, I think if this were another state, this would not be going on. Let me just say that, and I'll just leave it at that. If this weren't California, if this were somewhere else, this would not even be a topic. It wouldn't even be a topic. Moving on, I want to get to this. Murder and real estate. Have you ever wondered, well, what happens if a murder happens in a house? Does the real estate person have to tell the next buyer what happened? Now, I came across this article a couple weeks ago, and I'm just talking about it now. And this kind of rings true because I think I've told you before when back in my Vegas days, early on 2001, 2000, 2001, 2002, I was working with some filmmakers, and there was a guy's name was coincidentally Eric. And he lived in this apartment, and it was really weird in that there was in the bathroom in his, I think it was a 2-bedroom apartment, there was a mirror in a very odd location, like in the tub or in the shower or just, of course, it's not unusual to have a mirror in a bathroom. Say, hey, look at my hair. How do I look? But it was just the way it was placed was just really weird. And I was like, what's up with that? And Eric said, well, I found out that some years ago, a Metro cop lived in this apartment, and he ended up shooting himself here in the bathroom. And because they couldn't clean up the whole thing, they put a mirror on the wall where some of the damage had been done. That's a true story. And Eric was I believe Eric, he wasn't one to tell stories. I believe when he said it, I believed him, and I still believe him. So it's been on my mind. What a quirky story, and what are the laws regarding? Do you have to be let know? Somebody have to let you know. Well, here's some law on that if you've ever wondered. When a real estate agent works with a prospective home buyer, they're required to point out physical or material defects in the property. But how about a death on the property? It depends on the state where the house is located. In most states, death doesn't count as a material defect requiring disclosure. So this kind of stuff is fascinating to me. Some homes are considered stigmatized properties or dwellings that have been psychologically impacted by a past or suspected event on the property. Maybe some of you are thinking poltergeist, but has no physical impact of any kind, according to the National Association of Realtors. Stigmatizing events include murder, suicide, alleged hauntings, or a notorious previous owner. So which states require disclosure of death? Listing agents will have different requirements state by state on what to disclose to a buyer. Most states don't have any death disclosure requirements. So all of you could be living in places where murders occurred and you never know it. Among those that do, rules can be straightforward and explicitly require prior death to be disclosed to home buyers. Even those rules may only apply to recent deaths or more stigmatizing events such as murder. In California, for example, a seller must disclose that someone died in the house within the last 3 years. Meanwhile, in Alaska, the listing agent must communicate if any known murders or suicides happened in the last year. South Dakota requires sellers to disclose deaths within the last 12 months. Regulations will depend on the stigma in question. In New York, a seller doesn't need to disclose if the house was the site of a death or crime. But if a seller has made claims of paranormal activity in the home, they have to inform the buyer of potential ghosts in the property. Experts say this is fascinating to me. It's so crazy. Oftentimes, it falls on the home buyers directly asking the agent about the property's history. States like Georgia do not require real estate agents or sellers to disclose up front if the home was the site of a death. But they have to be truthful if a prospective buyer inquires. So they don't have to say anything, but if a buyer asks, has anybody ever died on this property? The real estate person has to tell the truth, or the owner has to tell the truth. Outside of what the disclosure laws are in a specific state, listing agents have a fiduciary responsibility to the seller, said Harrison Beecher, a real estate agent and managing partner at Coalition Properties Group in Washington, D.C. If somebody asks me about it, I can point them towards empirical resources to get answers, but I'm not under any requirements to go into detail. Here's what home buyers should know about properties that have been stigmatized by murder, suicide, alleged hauntings, or notorious prior owners, and how to find more details about the home's history. Stigmatized homes can be a turnoff for home buyers who believe in ghosts or spirits. Some people are spooked away, said somebody, while others might seek out these homes. Some people want to live in haunted houses. Nearly 3/4 of home buyers said they would buy a haunted house for a lower price. Just can't pass up that good deal. The site polled 1,000 U.S. adults in September to discover their views on buying and selling haunted houses. A spectacular topic for the season. Some buyers don't care what happens in a stigmatized property if it can get them a discount on price. About 43% of polled Americans would offer at least $50,000 below market value on a haunted house, Real Estate Witch found in the report. In 2021, the La Bianca mansion, the home where Leno and Rosemary LaBianca were murdered by the Charles Manson followers in 1969, sold for $1.875 million. The previous owner, Zach Bagans, a paranormal activity investigator, originally put the house on the market for $2.2 million, but later cut the price to $1.9 million. Different people interact with stigmatized properties in different ways. In 2023, about 67% of would-be buyers said they would buy a haunted house if it met their wants, like having appealing features, the right location, or a more affordable price. But buyers should know that every property has a history. Managing broker at Remax said, we can't erase the history that's been done there. That doesn't mean that you can't have good energy in there and have a good experience living in that home. If you have serious concerns or questions about a property's history, the first thing you should do is ask the real estate agent. In some states, real estate agents need to provide truthful information upon a buyer's request, or at the very least, point you towards the right direction to find out. Here are 2 ways to check. Talk to neighbors and officials. Yeah, just go next door. Hey, you know if anybody's ever died in that place? That's one way you can do it. And another way you can do it is follow the paper trail. The internet is a dangerous source for information. Ain't that the truth? As you can find a wealth of details about a property. If police responded to any activity at the house, the event will likely be reported in the newspaper and it would be public record. You can do an advanced search online through newspaper headlines and police reports, as all that information is free. I guess what we're saying here is, although they leave that out, disappearances are surely not required to be mentioned. But the reason this is on my mind also is because if you do find out that a disappearance did happen on a property and you're thinking about buying that house, you must be open to the idea that the missing person is still on that property somewhere. And that has happened. Because of the Found episode that I'm going to be working on tomorrow, you find quite a few articles about people who buy houses and later found missing people buried on the premises. And seemingly, for the most part, no owner or real estate agent or anybody has to mention it. Just keep that in mind if you are in the market for a house. Sarah says, I believe them to be cold and entitled men, Menendez brothers, who have exceptional legal representation. That's probably true, Sarah. Caveat emptor regarding the topic. Yeah, buyer beware. Yeah, buy it, then turn it into a museum. I guess you could do that, Cash. We're here, Ed. Yes, we're here. I know, but I'm sorry that I'm looking at, but got to read this article. Hello, everybody, but it's hard to read and look at the camera at the same time. Karen says the Menendez brothers went on a serious spending spree as soon as they could. And why kill the mother if not for the money? Right. Poltergeist house and grave. Yeah, don't ruin it for everybody, Cash. There still probably could be people out there who have not seen the movie Poltergeist. Fantastic movie. Yeah, fantastic movie. Okay, let's move on to another topic, and that has to do with Interpol. And I'm going to read this to you. And they're trying to go about identifying these women who have been found in different countries, many of them murdered. And I want to read about this. And then this is going to take me back here to the United States. Police have expanded a cold case campaign aimed at identifying dozens of women who were murdered or who died in suspicious circumstances across Europe, taking in 3 new countries and more than doubling the number of cases. The international policing organization Interpol said on Tuesday that forces from France, Italy, and Spain have joined those in Belgium, the Netherlands, and Germany, which last year launched Operation Identify Me to help name 22 female victims. I think it's funny that the operation is in English when English is not the primary language in any of these countries. That's pretty funny. The appeal has so far elicited more than 1,800 tips from the public and led last November to the identification of the body of Rita Roberts, a British woman with a distinctive flower tattoo whose remains were found in Antwerp in 1992. The inclusion of cold cases from the operation's 3 new participating countries and the addition of several more from its founding members brought the number of victims whose identities were being actively sought to 46. Our goal is simple, said Interpol's Secretary General Jürgen Stock. We want to identify the deceased women, bring answers to families, and deliver justice to the victims. We can't do it alone. This is why we are appealing to the public. The Identify Me website includes details of each case and facial reconstructions of some of the women, as well as images of individual items, including jewelry and clothing discovered at the sites where the women's remains were found. Details include information from so-called black notices normally available to police, including location, biometric data such as DNA, fingerprints and facial images, dental charts, physical descriptions, and other potentially relevant details. Each case has a distinctive name chosen by police. One of the oldest is the girl with the 10 pence coin, whose body was found in November 82 in Le Cellier, France. Believed to be about 16 years old at the time of her death, she carried a British 10 pence coin and a metal key ring in the shape of Napoleon. Others include the woman who wasn't alone, whose body was found hands tied in a hotel room in Premià de Mar, Spain, in early 1999, and the woman with the panther and scorpion tattoos found in the Po River in Carbonara de Po, Italy, in 2008. Interpol said the 6 countries were also sharing analytical capabilities and advanced forensic methods such as DNA profiling, facial reconstruction, and isotopic analysis, which could help uncover clues about the victim's origins, lifestyle, and cause of death. Even the smallest piece of information can be vital. A memory, a tip, or a shared story, the smallest detail could help uncover the truth. The public could be the key to unlocking a name, a past, and in delivering long overdue justice. So these countries are all getting together. Maybe they have a reason to believe that, citizens of their countries are going missing in other countries. So they're kind of trying to figure this all out. And something that occurs to me is this would be a lot easier if these victims could talk. And of course, these victims could talk. They could tell us what happened. That's not really what I mean. The thing about seeing a dead body is that you don't know where the person is from. And that kind of leads me, and I've said this on this before. Let me see. Raymond. I think the Menendez brothers were so stupid they actually thought they were going to get away with it. Very well me, Raymond. Very well may be. Hazel does not like Brexit. Yes, Cash says, don't get me started. Okay. But this leads me to Namus, and I've kind of brought this up before. That I think a lot of people, and I was there at one time as well, I think a lot of people could think they just go to Namus. You got all these missing people listed over here. You got all these unidentified remains over here. All you have to do is, work at it back and forth between both lists. And eventually you're going to be able to match up a lot of missing people with these unidentified remains. Well, anybody who's ever tried that knows it's very, 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 very difficult to do. And in fact, well before I ever started Unfound, I would spend a lot of time on Namus trying to do that. And of course, I never succeeded. And I think by now, after 8 years of you listening to the podcast, I think you realize at least a decently smart guy never could do that, ever, not once. It is not as easy as it would seem. And one of the reasons I think that is I'm very open to the idea. Of course, on NamUs, you have to remember something. For the most part, the people who are listed on NamUs, the missing people, are only American citizens. Yes, so maybe like Elena Carisi might be on there, but for the most part, they are American citizens who are listed on there. The issue is that with the unidentified remains, we really have no idea on the nationalities of any of those people. We take for granted that they're Americans because they were found here. I'm not so sure that's a smart thing to do. Now, certainly many of them are Americans who were born here, grew up here, or whatever else. But we also have to remember all of the people from all over the world who come here, whether legally or illegally, and I'm not getting into that, or somewhere in between, not touching that topic, and stay here. And those people would surely not be listed as missing people on NamUs. But their identified remains, if they were found out in the middle of the desert somewhere with no ID, then that would probably make it onto NamUs. This is something very, very important to remember when you go to NamUs and you're looking. Do not take for granted that the identified remains you see on there, every single one of them is an American citizen. We just don't know. The odds say, yeah, most of them are. But I happen to believe that many of them are not. And that's why I said, if only if only dead people could just say, I am from here. They wouldn't even have to say what happened to them. If you get the Talking Dead, I drowned, I was murdered, I committed suicide. If we just knew the country or just the city they were from, I'm telling you, a lot of those unidentified remains, those mysteries would be solved like that. Pretty sure. But because all we have are bones and everybody's bones look the same, it becomes a very, very difficult task. I don't know if any of you have ever tried to do that. When I had a lot more time in my life, I'm going to guess like late 2000s, like 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, somewhere like right around when Steven Kocher went missing in Las Vegas, I guess technically Henderson. Around that time, I was spending a lot of time on NamUs. And I would go to a local Starbucks. I'd have my laptop. I'd just be hanging out. And I would just sit there on NamUs, go to the unidentifieds list, go to the missing persons list, and see if I could come close to maybe getting lucky in matching something up. Never did. I'm not saying it's never happened, but I know a lot of people attempt to do it and are unsuccessful. And so we have to start thinking, well, why is this a lot harder than it would seem to be? One of the reasons is because the people who are listed on NamUs, their remains haven't been found, and the remains that are on there, the people aren't listed on NamUs. It's tough. It's tough. What does everybody Cash says we're going to do DNA tests soon for an entry. Interesting. Get in the database. For me, a DNA progressing amazingly. It is. Yeah. But once again, when it comes to remains and everything, you can only match it up if you have some DNA on file already. Just because you get bones doesn't mean you're going to be able to identify them. So it's just been something that's been on my mind. And so when I think about this Interpol story, just because a woman is found in Italy doesn't mean she's from Italy. If a woman or a man's found in Germany, doesn't necessarily mean he's from Germany. Could be from anywhere. Could be from anywhere. And especially if we have like people coming from other countries as tourists or whatever else to the United States, and they go missing for some reason, whether they're suicide or whatever happens, and their bones are found somewhere. You really think that we're going to be able to identify, somebody comes to us from, I don't know, let's pick a country, Tunisia. How are we in the United States ever going to get a handle on who's going missing from Tunisia? I don't know. Even in this age of information being able to be sent at light speed and everything else. It's a fascinating topic to me. Wanted to comment on it. So there you go. So with that, and I should say one more thing about this there, and I think I've mentioned this before a couple times on the live show. There is a unidentified remains from the Las Vegas area called Sandstone Doe. Young man, bones of a young man found in a cave outside of Las Vegas near Lake Mead. What year? 2005, 2006, something like that. I worked on that identified remains for like 6 months. Never was ever to make any headway on who this young man could be. But what we know is he was executed. He was shot in the back of the head. And then somebody took his body, put it up in this cave where they thought nobody would find it. But what they did was they stacked a bunch of rocks in front of this cave so nobody would see the body. Well, hikers saw the rocks and say, hey, that's like a man-made formation. What's going on? They went up there, moved the rocks, found the body. So Sandstone Doe, if you want to check that out, you can do a Google search for it. All these years later, like 20 years later, still unidentified. But this guy was executed. This young man was executed. And I've convinced myself that he was not an American citizen, that he is from some other country, was in the Las Vegas area, got executed for whatever reason, and his body was left there. You want to check it out for yourself. Maybe you can come to some sort of conclusion. Yes, that's right, Cash. Sandstone Doe. That's right, Cash. That's exactly right. Let's go to this Friday's disappearance. We are staying in the beautiful state of Washington, even though I've never been there. I've heard it's beautiful. Last week, of course, we were in Bellingham, Washington. This week, we're going to Anacortes, Anacortes. Yeah, that's right. You talked about Sandstone Doe, not Joe, but Sandstone Doe 6 weeks ago. I did, Hazel. Good memory. We're going to be covering the disappearance of Lene Westbrook, Westbrook, Lene Westbrook of Anacortes, Washington. She went missing on September 10th of 2020, so a fairly recent disappearance. Her sister-in-law, Emily, is the guest. She did a fantastic job. And this, I got to be honest, this disappearance does not have a quirky fact like Clint Walker's did, but I don't care about that. We treat all disappearances the same. We're going to take a look at it, cover it as best as we can. But there is a new topic for this episode, and it would be, what about when somebody goes missing with their pet? And that is exactly why I've already titled this episode. The title would be "And Her Little Dog Too," because not only did Lene go missing, but her little rat terrier 5-pound dog went missing with her. This might be a first. I don't know if we ever covered any disappearances where somebody's pet went missing. We know about Eric Alvarado and his pit bulls getting hit by cars. But where a dog is missing too, this might be a first for Unfound. So I wanted to really point that out this Friday. So Lene Westbrook, Westbrook, she is on NamUs. She is on the Charlie Project. Anacortes, Washington, September 10th, 2020. Her sister-in-law, Emily, is the guest. And that's all I have for you tonight. I got it to all the other stuff. I got to the stuff in the title. I did such a great job today. I think I deserve a thumbs up. So please do that before you're done. Patreon.com, paypal.me/Unfound Podcast, or hit the join button. Contribute to what we are doing here at Unfound. I would deeply appreciate it. And you will hear me on Friday interviewing the guest for the disappearance of Lene Westbrook. And while you're listening to it, I should be over in Orlando seeing my sister, my brother-in-law, Jim, and Charlie, and whoever else is going to be there. So there you go. Have a great week, everybody. Keep your heads on swivels. Be safe out there. Don't be victims. I don't want to have to do an Unfound episode on you. Don't make me do that. Good night.